Okay, we're back to organised chaos just down here. It's one of those things, I think really this kit is overcomplicated what should be quite a straightforward thing. To have moving flaps and things like that, really, you know, there's a lot better kits out there which handle this a lot better. Certainly things like the Tamiya Spitfire spring to mind and things like that. Anyway, if I talk you through it, it's probably going to be a bit easier to explain. So as I said, we put these little guys on here. So these are all moving, no problem at all. So now we actually have to fit them to the wing area itself. And when we start off, it's no real problem at all. All we're going to do, we just bring you in a little bit, we're just going to pop a little bit of super glue, CA glue, just so it gives something for the actual these to bite to. So we just drag these in and get these to lock down. Okay. Now, as I said, this is your first challenge because these don't fit in these very well at all. Okay, so you put them in and they don't fit. So the easiest way is just to come along with something quite weighty and just push these guys into the plastic, and all of a sudden they'll click in. But if you've got a bit of super glue there, it'll make it a one-way trip. So they go in and then lock in. So a good old push down without super gluing your finger to it is a bit of a must. Okay, this is in. Obviously we've got now a working aileron. All very well, you say. Okay, so what we've actually got then, we've gone around and we've put this one's got a twin one in there and things like that. Now, this is one of those things, have a look at your instructions and just keep an eye out for what's going where and things like that. Because actually what we've got here is this little guy is going to come in this direction, if I remember correctly. Get these out of the way. As I say, it gets a bit confusing because they all sort of look very, very similar after a fashion. So actually what we have here is this twin one that comes up. Now he says, just making sure he's double checking to get this right. If we just look at the other one that I've done already. Okay, so actually what you've got on this photo etch, we've got here number 4. Okay. And so we just want, is it number 4? Hold on, this is where I slightly get ahead of myself already. Where are we? Ding, 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 ding. That's it. Let me just get this straight in my head. Okay, so let's just hook these out. So we're going to need a number 1. So we'll just pop this little guy down here, okay, and we're going to need a number 2. Like that, and then a number 9. So just click these off. It's just remembering how all of these go and the best way to get them in. So okay, what we got here is this little guy has got a little groove right in between the middle, as you can see just in here. Okay, then what happens is, just checking this against the one we've already got. So this little guy here, okay, is actually going to sit in here and go through the holes. Where are you? There we go. It goes in between the holes like this. Okay, so it slots in between the 2 bars, and that way it gives it a bit of a swing for it to carry on. Now the thing with this is that it comes along and says to use a little bit of copper piping wire like this. Trouble is, when you come along to try and feed this through, it doesn't fit. Okay, it's a bit of a nightmare. So what I've done, I've replaced that, okay, by using a little bit of piping. Okay, this is very thin and it's just the right size to go in there. Now this isn't going to be as strong as there we go. This isn't going to be as strong as using the copper, but obviously this isn't the working part. It's going to sit there and look pretty and everything else. So what we need to do now is to actually put this in. So the easiest way I found to do this, okay, and because it's going to be moving, now you're not going to be able to see this, so I'll show you afterwards. Just feed it through, and it's extremely fiddly to line all of these things up. Okay. So we're just trying to pop it through. Okay, and it comes out the other end. So we're in there just like so. Okay, you get what we're getting here. Alright, now the next thing to do is just grabbing these matches. You need to heat up. Come on. The one. Okay, we need to just heat up. So I'm just going to light a candle. Say a prayer. Okay, so what we've got is a candle just on the go, just down here. Very nice one. Thank you, Mel. Okay, so what we're going to do is just heat up an old file. So we've got this file here, and all we're doing, okay, is just heating this up to a nice high temperature so it can melt the plastic. It's nice and hot. Avoid the actual. Here we go, so we've got that one melted in. Now if I bring you in close for the other side, you can see exactly what we're going to do here. Okay, so we've melted this outside part, so that now sticks in just like so. So what we'll do, we're just going to snip this with a little bit of melting room. Okay. So it's on the end just like this, okay. Heating up that bar again. Get it nice and hot, but obviously be careful you don't stick it down on the actual wing itself. Now the great way of doing this is obviously we don't bash it. So there we go, then hopefully we can just come along and we can just push this in and melt it in just like that. So the camera will lock in. Come on camera, nice tight angle. There we go, you can see it just like that. So I'll just keep on heating this up. So there it goes, it's in there now and it's all operational and working. And we have this now, all moves, all nice and easy and everything else like that. So we'll just do the other side, just a touch. So there we have it, no problem at all. So we just do the same on the other side as well, because this one has exactly the same type of setup. We've got this little bar in here, this little part here. This needs to be bent over 90 degrees. And then this one where the drop of super glue just goes in here. Just going to fit straight in the end here. Hopefully, again, we have enough room to fit this little guy in. Everything's such a tight fit on this kit, which is something we'll talk about in a moment. Okay, so what happens is exactly the same. This one will go on the other side, so it's all swingy like that. Once you're done, you can place them in then, and then you should be in a situation where we have this. Now we're going to clean all this up yet and tidy this up because we need to sand in this back area because this is obviously resin on the back, and this one will go through and will act as an aileron and a flapper on as well, but all the parts are all moving in here and everything else, and when we're in the up position it's fine, and then obviously we can have it so it'll completely drop down so we can sand out that and take care of all those joints. So that's that outer wing, and then what we've done, we've just put in here this little guy here, so we've got the correct outer shape for when this joins up obviously with the main fuselage half. We've still got to put a hole in there, okay, we've got to put a hole right the way through there so the fibre optics can come out the other end, okay, and then when they come out of here we'll do that all a lot later on. But that gives us our outer wing structure, and that's all got to be sanded and blended in and everything, and I'll take care of that. But that is really putting this together, and it's extremely complicated and extremely fancy and really a complete waste of time. It's an overcomplicated situation for doing what should be a very straightforward part of the actual kit. So that's one part. Now the next problem we've actually got, okay, is the actual main sub-assembly. This will probably come off now because what we've done, we've installed the radiator onto the front here. That's going to have to be sanded and blended in. There again, it's not a perfect fit, and it's just going to be a filler and rescribe job in there. Now obviously we've got this wing section is going to come along, it's going to bolt onto the outer part here, and we've got a few little lips
where it's actually going to stick to, but it's not going to be very strong. So what we need to do is put in some tubing into here, which are going to go along, and then that will poke into these, which will give us a nice strong lockable fit, okay, in there. The main problem is when you come along, we've got our resin tub in here in the bottom, you come along and put it on and you think, oh, that's not too bad, but we have got quite a nasty gap going on the bottom here, no matter how you pull it. And I've sanded this so far, you can actually see now we're coming through, this entire edge is in there. Now from the inside, as you see going in, you can probably see a little bit of daylight down the end. I'll cover my finger over, you see the daylight? That's how thin we are down here. As I say, we've just torn it like a little bit of paper just down in here. So it looks like we're going to have to sand in a little bit more, and perhaps, you know, then this part will be sprayed green for the bottom to get this actually together. But I've been sanding and sanding and sanding, and I've sanded the bottom of this to try and get these two to line up, and we are still a little way off from a perfect fit, because one side you get right, the other side is a big gap. So it does need to be sanded, and I can't really see any way around this. And I know there is people out there that say Aries, you know, in a different language actually means parts don't fit and things like that. But obviously this one is no way near it again. So what we're going to have to do is literally sand off the bottom of this completely, all around it, and then paint the underside of this green, and then hopefully between the two, the formers in the bottom are all still going to be in there. But I can't see an easy fix or an easy way out of doing this bottom half. So what I'll do now, I'm going to get these wings finished off and together, okay, we get them all put together. We're going to sand off and get these areas done on these top parts of the wing. Then we can basically finish up the electrical work in here, make sure we're all happy how it all is and everything else like that. Okay, so one of the more tricky areas is obviously, normally if you're going to build this kit, perhaps you do it with the wings folded up, but having the wings folded down is always going to give you sort of problems trying to line them up. Now some kits go to better, you know, really quite straightforward than other ones do. Other ones, they tend to be a bit of a problem. This is a problem one. Now there's two things we've got slightly different going on here. Obviously we've got fibre optics. You might be able to see here we've got a cable on each end, and we've got a fibre optic running down, because this is going to run this light here, and then obviously we've got the cable which is ready to go up on the inside this one, up with that lighting system. So this one we've already put on, and we've gone on and we've tidied up and everything else like that. So what I'm going to do is really show you how to join two relatively big areas which don't fit at all, by the way, they're a couple of millimetres out, and how to blend them in, like here, totally seamless, very, very quickly. So we're going to do this in one shot, no camera trickery or cutaways or anything else like that. So what we've done here, we've got a little bit of plastic tubing just down in here. Bring you in close so we can show you. So we've got down here this plastic tubing. Now really the reason for that is twofold. One, it's so it feeds nicely, because obviously it runs to the other end here with this fibre optic just the way through, and secondly it gives a little bit of strength. So the way I did it is, first of all, we're just going to slide this in here just like this, okay, and we're just going to push this fibre optic cable in, and it comes out quite nicely out the end here. So we're in now. The reason having that through, because we don't want to sort of get it stuck in position. I'd rather have too much hanging out, okay. And that's the other reason for using the tube in, is that obviously it will protect it all. Now what I'm going to do is hold this leading edge in place. Now obviously the top is where we're all going to see 99% of the work up here. So what we're going to do is just come along, I've got some super glue, okay, quite a bit of it, and I'm just going to run it top to bottom on this, okay. Just for speed, we're going to use a bit of kicker to speed that up and dry that area in. So that's what we've done. We've got that in. Give it a blow. And what we need is just for that to bite into position just a moment. So then what we can do is we can then start to maneuver it, make sure we got the angles okay, that it's all at the right positions and everything else like that. So if we just stick this top edge, it enables, it's going to give us some bend, so we can bend this around, okay, but it's enough to hold it all in position. And there we go, that's now in position just like that. Then if I flip this little guy over, you might be able to see here on the bottom, trouble is it's, voila, we've got a gap and a half down here, you see, but the top half isn't too bad. So obviously the top is where we're going to be looking, but we've got to take into account everything else on here. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're just going to pop a little bit more super glue on this top edge as well. Now I know you're thinking, hold on, you're filling up all the joins and everything else like that. You're quite right, I am. But what we're going to do, we're going to come along, blow, sorry, we're going to come along, and then what we're actually going to do is rescribe it, reblend it, and everything else like that. Really what we're going to do on the other side here. So we've got those two halves in. Now what we're going to do is have a look head on at it, and we're going to make sure the angles seem to be line up and everything else like that. So if we pull this a little bit of fibre optic cabling back, because we know it's free, what we can do a line of sight. So we can just pop it in here like this and have a look. And we're just going to look at it. And if it looks not so bad there, then we know we're halfway there. If it's looking really bad, so what we're going to do is pop this guy down, making sure the flaps, tail flaps are all off the back. Okay, and then pretty straightforward. Just going to grab our calipers. So we've got our set of calipers here. Okay, and we're just going to measure the distance between the wingtip. So what you do is you want to push it down, okay, on each side, and see if they're identical. So I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. If I put it side on, you might be able to see a little bit better. So we know it's all flat, just like this, okay, so we're coming along with our calipers, okay, and then we are seeing, okay, that's good on that side, slide it along, okay, and on that side it's perfect. So we know we're at the correct angle between the two, so what we're going to do is just going to check the centres as well. Let me just pop this back in a sec. The old battery's sliding out. Okay, so we just check centres as well. Okay, that side. Okay, and we know they're perfect. Now it's one of those ones that was quite straightforward because they're in there. Okay, so what we can do now, we can flip this guy over and say we've got a meaty big old join going on down here. Okay, and this is where you can follow me through. Okay, coming in, super glue. Right, okay, a few things as I do this. Why use super glue, I hear you all ask. Silly, simple really. At the end of the day, this stuff will fill quite a big gap, or hopefully, you should see in a second, will fill a nice big old gap, like even this big, just like that. That's a massive old gap for it to do, but it does it pretty straightforward. Give it a square. Obviously it's going to dry as hard as nails, is the other thing. Pull the camera out. As you're spraying this stuff, what goes on, what it does is thin the actual super glue a little bit. Okay, and then what can happen is it can then shoot out and run down. So make sure you do it over a desk, over a bit of paper, because you won't believe the amount of times I've actually covered super glue on my jeans doing it this way. Okay, so as you can see here now, it turns to sort of crazy paving all down the back. Okay, so what we're going to do is just going to pop around and make sure it's all on there nicely. And then what we're going to do, for a strength point of view, we're going to run some down, just down in this gap here, between the two, obviously top and bottom. Kick up, and that's where you have to be careful where that's going to run to, as it's all wet, because we put plenty of it to pump it inside of this join, okay, for want of a better word, down in there. So what you need to do is for that all to dry out, and you can probably see we pumped it down in there. We've got a big blob on the front here, that's what's come up from the back. We've got it come out through the middle, got a big blob right here on the side of the wing. Actually, it's quite a mess, okay? But this is where you don't have to worry too much. Don't sit down and start panicking that, you know, oh God, look, what have I done to it? Just before we sand this and take it, make it all nice again, I'm just going to check those heights again. So we're just going to, we don't want to push it down. Literally, we're just trying to keep it at the correct height. It's tiny little bit higher, but we've got a little bit of movement in between the wings anyway. But that's perfect. Oh, that's okay. I'm happy with those. They're both exactly the same height, so I know from here we're looking at, in the old millimetre wise, what, 29 mil on the height. Okay, let's just turn that off so we don't waste the battery on that. So we're 29 millimetres off the deck up, gives us a nice angle. Okay, now with these fibre optics, I'm just going to poke in out the way a little bit, because there again, we don't want to mess them up. Okay, and what I'm going to do is just fold them into each other's areas. So they're all nice and tidy. Okay, now here comes the fun bit. You're going to need, obviously, we're going to need a polishing buffer. We're going to need a normal sander. Okay, you can use your mini drill if you want, which is a nice little touch I'll show you about in a moment. Okay, and we're going to need a couple of files. Okay, these are pretty coarse ones. So what we're going to do, we're going to go in there and just literally tear into this. So what we're going to do, we'll start with quite a rough one in the front. And what will happen is there will be super glue that's wet still on the inside, but hopefully what's going to go on now is that the dust and everything we're kicking up and the mess from this will just go in there. So we've got a big blob of super glue on the top here. And all we're doing, as I said, is pretty much tearing into this. We're going to lose details, we're going to lose obviously lines and things, but it's one of those ones that's easier to take care of now than it will be a bit later on. Okay, so we just come in there, drop that flap down out the way, roll across the back. Okay, in here. And I suppose you could call this quite extreme sanding and filling, but in some ways it does save a lot of time and messing around. So if you're using normal fillers and putties, oh, it takes forever to dry. At least this way is in there. So there we go. This top one is now looking very nice. It's just coming in across the top. People often say to me about, you know, what do you do if you get a big gap? Well, this is my normal way of dealing with big gaps. Okay, yes, you can use plastic hard and everything else, but when you're gluing it down, you might as well just take the bullet. Sometimes, you know, people often say to me about riveting, they don't like to sand it because of the riveting. That's all perfect now across the top. But sometimes it's just best to really bite the bullet and say, okay, look, I'm going to lose it all, and we'll just put it back in afterwards. Okay, so we're just coming across this bottom. Now we've got a step, obviously, between the two, so we're going to blend them in. There's quite a bit of glue down here. So if you wanted to, you can come in with a stronger sanding stick, clean them off. I must admit, I'm a bit lazy. I just stick them down my trousers on my jeans. Okay, rounding round. And on a situation where you've got a higher and a lower and you're blending the two together like this, what we're trying to aim for, flatten this top one off perfectly well and then bring it down as well. So this one, where we've built up with super glue obviously on this edge running down, it raises up. So between the two, they meet. So it's like one half too high, one's too shallow, and then they'll come together near the end. Now obviously we've got metal work and everything else just down the back here, so we're avoiding that. We'll get in there and tidy that up a lot nicer in a moment. Okay, so we'll just do this area all here. Usual thing, what we're doing is looking for is very white areas. Now we've slightly just over sanded. You might be able to see that little hole appearing in here. Okay, this bit back here, and that's where we've sanded this top half of this wing a little bit too low, and obviously you've got the bottom one coming up. So what we're going to do, a bit more super glue, kick that on, because what it'll do is soak down into the join, and then we can sand some more onto it. Okay, now as that's drying, what we'll do, coming along, obviously to start off with, we're coming in with the core side of the buffer. Okay, and we'll just do up here. And all we're doing with the core side is just polishing out all the deep scratches and grooves that have been caused with the sanding files that are torn into this and scratched all the plastic and everything else. And obviously when you run your finger, we're all totally smooth, so we're really happy with that. So we're just coming along. Just down the back. And as you can see, we haven't lost totally all that riveting detail. It's still there, so it's going to be easy to put all of this back in. And obviously, because we use super glue, this here looks a bit like a gap caps on camera. It's totally solid. Okay, and then what you can do is obviously rescribe those in following those lines. So we've got here polishing sponge, same thing. We're just going to come along. What the polishing sponge, all this is going to do is not any sort of wear and tear or anything else like that, but what it's actually going to do is take out the scratches caused by the actual files where we've been tearing into these and everything else. So all we do, we just do this roughly, and there we go. All done, pretty straightforward and simple. So when you see it with the other side, obviously I've got to take care of that bottom one again, but you see it down here, pretty straightforward. We've got all the curves, we can see where we've got to go, everything else. Under here you can probably see where this line is. As I say, we've got to do a lot more cleaning up here to make this side good, as in buffing, a little bit of filler tidy up that we've got going on down the back here, but generally it's all happy with that. So we just give that a good old buff. Polishing one, and as you can see, you might be able to see on the close-up how much filler has gone into that. That's quite a lump to put in, but there we go. In the space of, I don't know how long I've been yapping now, but that's those done and dusted. Fibre optics are all there. Happy about how they're all going to be. So now we can get on with marrying this up. Once I'm working out all the fibre optics and things like that, is going to come along now, and it's going to turn our horrible looking lumps of plastic into something like a Corsair. Okay, so excusing the mess, we're almost there. So what we've actually done now, we've fed through underneath here. You might be able to see if we bring it a little bit closer. We've got the LEDs, you can see two coming up there. That's into the back of that LED that's at the top there, all fused in. We've got the cables, and for the moment we're just bringing them out underneath here, so we're all fine. So what we can do now is marry up the top and the bottom. So where we've shimmed the life out of the bottom of the cockpit area we spoke about before, we've now got it all in there, just like that. So what we can do now, we can seal up this side and obviously get this wing fitted in and everything else like that. What we need to do just very quickly is just hand paint a little bit down here of the interior green, just to really sort of finish that off and bring it all together. So what we do, we just grab some of this interior green on here. So really should mix this up a little bit beforehand. Alright, so we're just going to grab a little bit down here, and we're just painting up it by hand, because obviously we've had to make the internal colour where we've sanded through the floor, because this is now going to become the floor for the actual cockpit. So we just literally slap a bit of this all in. It doesn't have to be a particularly good job or anything else. Now also what I've done is I've got it all over the desk, you can see, but I've blown out the inside of the cockpit completely. Let's pop that away for a minute. So we're all clear. Now as I say, you've got cables running everywhere around here, so what we want to do is just come along, okay, and we're going to sit this halves down together. Okay, so we're in shape. We want to make sure the cables are all free, they're not caught up underneath or anything else like that. If we move you out. So they're all hanging nice and free. Okay, then obviously we're looking around to making sure we've got any joins, real bad problems with joins, anything else like that. And obviously we've got gaps at the back we need to take care of it. We're going to just super glue those in. So we've got that in position just like that. So what we can do is just making sure we're all lined up and everything's in. Then we can actually bring these in. Now these cables are a bit of a pain at the moment, so they're on crocodile clips, and there's a reason for that. Is so I can literally just clip them in here to keep them out of the way. Alright, so what we'll do, we're just going to come along. So we've got a big gap here, but it all going to have to be taken care of. In just a touch of super glue. On the back here, tiny bit of kicker. Because all we're trying to do is to get it to just roughly hold us in place. Just a little bit down each side. Kicker again. Bit of a blow. Okay, then we're just going to roughly tack these in. So we're just going to put a little bit at the front on this side. Squirt a kicker, and before that sets, we're just going to push him gently into position. Blow that down. Same just on the other side again. Touch of kicker. As I say, I know I keep saying it, but the kicker's great because what that actually does, it makes it turn a little bit watery. And the capillary reaction is great because it then just all off it goes and it all flows off. So now, for the first time, we have the wing section actually in place and holding its own weight and everything else like that. So we're quite happy how that's working. So what we'll do now, we're just going to grab these power things and just slip them off down to the tail. And we'll just let them bite in here just a second. Okay, then what we're going to do, obviously we've got a tiny little bit of a pull. It needs just to be pulled just a fraction up a little bit, just to help it join up in these joints and everything else. So there's two ways of doing that. I'm going to use a rubber band. Okay, and all that's doing is slightly lifting it so we get a better join just down here. Okay, and we're just looking for any massive gaps, lumps and bumps everywhere, and it all looks okay. So what we can do now, we can come along with a little bit of extra thin. Okay, and we know we've got to take care of some joins and various things, but this is making pretty much a nice seamless join down here. So plenty of glue, and then what we're going to do is let this stand to literally go off. But we just check it's all going in okay, and everything else is all right. Then, as I say, we'll pop another band on the other side and do exactly the same thing. Let it stand, have a good clear up here and everything else, and then we can go around and take care of all the seams, the joins, and really start to move this one on.